Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Rangers review. Post-match briefing. Now, Chris Jack's been working so hard, he's been kicked out of the Union Berlin Stadium, but we're still going to bring you our reaction to Rangers 4, Union Berlin 4, or Rangers 4, it should be perhaps the other way around. Rangers pre-season games haven't been that watchable so far. That was certainly different today. Chris, Rangers behind a lot, came back a lot. 2 goals for Tom Lawrence and 2 goals for Cyril Dessers. We're going to just talk briefly about the game and also what Philippe Clement had to say in his press conference after. You can watch that in total on our YouTube page or read it in full, every word Clement had to say over on the website. But Chris, I guess that's the main point first and foremost. We said that it had to be better by Rangers today. And look, there was a few defensive calamities, I think, overall. But it was generally better on the ball. And I thought that looked like a team who were better, certainly, than in midweek against Birmingham, and no shortage of entertainment for you out there in Berlin this afternoon.
Pre-season games are meant to be somewhat straightforward affairs, and you can do a nice bit of relaxed work and you enjoy it. It's been quite the afternoon here. I think, as we mentioned pre-match, the home fans here were certainly up for it, and they made a lot of noise, made it into a really good atmosphere. Actually, the smoke bombs being let off in the car park as I speak to you from outside the stadium after being ejected from it by an overly official at the football club. But no, it's been I think overall it's a game of two halves, an afternoon of a Jekyll and Hyde performance almost from Rangers. And you look at certainly from middle to front, I thought there was definitely things there to be encouraged about. Mohamed Diomande, excellent throughout, really impressive. That partnership with Connor Barron grows every time that they play together. That's something certainly to be positive about. Tom Lawrence took his goals really well. Cyril Dessers took his goals really well.
Chris, talk to me about that second finish. That's the finish that Cyril Dessers has tried to do ever since he came to Ibrox a year ago, isn't it? I don't think I've ever seen him hit a shot first time in his life.
He's quite the striker to try and sum up. We actually spoke to him post match. You'll be able to see that interview and read that interview over the next couple of days. He's a smashing big guy. Plays with a smile on his face. Doesn't seem to get down. Puts himself in those positions. But as you say, see if he would just hit them more often first time, then who knows how many goals he could end up with over the course of a season. He's quite a frustrating figure to watch at times, but I think you have to give him credit for both finishes today. So Diomande played a lovely pass for the first one. Dessers then shows good composure, takes it on the keeper, finishes it well. Second one, he's aware of the ball falling out the air after the defender gets the flick on it, takes his time, beats one man, beats a second man, and then just slots it through the goalkeeper's legs. So two really good finishes from him. If he can keep that up, then he might start to win over some of the doubters, of which I know there are many. Now we see the social media, we see the comments on the show every day. People remain to be convinced that Cyril Dessers is a Rangers number 9, but I thought it was a really encouraging performance from him. And I think middle to front, I say Diomande and Barron in particular. Lawrence was good. Dessers gets the praise for his goals. Shall we say small issues or rather big issues at the other end of the pitch. Now, Union caused Rangers a lot of problems at times. Both fullbacks looking exposed, centre halves. Nobody will convince me that that's a pairing or that's a back four that's going to be the foundations that a title challenge is built upon. Rangers really do need to improve at that in that area of the pitch. But the manager was asked about that post match. He didn't seem overly concerned by it. Didn't seem too worried by it. But I think the fans that were here and the fans that have been also watching on from home, I think they will be slightly concerned that how that back four has, no matter what partnership has played over the pre-season, to lose 10 goals in 4 games, it doesn't make for great reading.
It doesn't, yeah. Let's talk about the positives and then the negatives, Chris. A few comments here. Francis saying it was a better game today. James, it was a crazy game, but at least Rangers played well in some aspects. James saying the defence is the worst it has been for a long time. I guess from the positive point of view, Chris, you know who your central midfield partnership is next week. Diomande, I tweeted out after the game, I think he's going to be Rangers' most important player this season. And again, so many aspects of a game when you watch him at the moment, I just think he's a step ahead of his teammates and the opposition at points. Really excited to see what he can do this season. And Connor Barron has settled really well since his move this summer. I thought Chefty on the ball was really good and had a good contribution leading up to 2 of the goals. The left-hand side we'll come on to in a moment. Maybe had a few defensive worries, shall we say. James Tavernier as well on the right-hand side looks pretty rusty defensively. But if you look at the goals that Rangers did score, we've not seen, they were more aggressive off the ball, but we've not seen them, I think, play with any real tempo or attack teams consistently so far this pre-season. But if you look at what they did in the middle of the park, you had your striker and number 10 both score 2 goals. I think, Chris, it will be Dessers and Lawrence, probably Diomande and Barron as that kind of midfield partnership, number 10 and striker next week. So I guess a positive day with that in mind.
That number 10 role, I know it's something that we've written about over the course of summer. We spoke about it over the course of summer with a conversation actually press boys last night, and looking ahead to the season, looking at where Rangers are. For me, I'm still not convinced that number 10 setup is the right way for Rangers to go in certain matches. I would like to see the manager change it in certain games. You think back to the success that Steven Gerrard had, for example, with Davis, Kamara, Ryan Jack. That's a very different midfield setup than the one that Rangers are operating with at present. I think there's good players in there. I mentioned Diomande. I think this is, as you see, it's going to be a really big season for him. He just looks as if he's getting better all the time. Connor Barron, I think, has made a really impressive start to his Rangers career. By the sounds of it, there will be more reinforcements to come in that area of the pitch as well. I think the manager has to be slightly more flexible tactically. There will be games where you can afford to have a number 10, certainly Ibrox against some of the league opposition. When you get to some of the European games, or you come to Old Firm games, for example, I think he might have to change it up. I'm not convinced that's the right setup, but I think there's definitely encouragement there. I say that Diomande Barron partnership looks really good, and with there's a bit more strength, a bit more depth. There's Nico Raskin still to come back in, finished last season really well, and there will be reinforcements in that number 10 area. The manager spoke with Todd Cantwell obviously after Wednesday night. He will obviously move on. Yanis Hadji will move on. Sam Lammers has moved on. Alec Lowry, who knows what the future holds for him. So even if only 1 or 2 leave, there will need to be reinforcements. You can't ask Tom Lawrence, if he stays, if he's still part of it, you can't ask him to go and play 45 games next season. It's not going to be. No. It's not going to be possible. So there will need to be, regardless of how the manager decides to set the team up, there will need to be reinforcements in that area. And how he goes about that, and the players that come into that midfield could really shape Rangers' aspirations for the rest of this campaign.
Barrie said to go to the negatives, the back four was shocking. James says, Chris Josh, after the poor pre-season, how many defenders do Rangers need? And a question here from RFC saying, Joshua, why are you avoiding mentioning Butland? He's been one of the poorest performers in pre-season and cost us in our last competitive fixture. Yeah, hasn't had a great pre-season. I think that's obviously very fair to point out. But Chris, on the other side, the left-hand side, Oscar Cortez didn't track back well, didn't cover himself in glory on a couple of occasions. Sheffield going forward, I thought was really good. I thought at the back was raw. And the point about Butland, again, we'll discuss this in the lead up to the Hearts game. If you look at his season last season, he actually did drop off quite a lot after March. It wasn't just the Scottish Cup final. It's probably because he'd been so good before that it's not been covered quite as much. But I think, to put it mildly and simply, Chris, the defence needs work ahead of next weekend's game against Hearts, which probably kicks off the new season.
Work is one way of putting it. I think it needs quite a lot. Obviously, as we spoke about pre-match, Connor Goldson will move on. That frees up transfer fee, certainly frees up wages as well. Rangers have to use that wisely. Also, Clinton and Ciala has come in. For what we've seen, I think it sums up the theory that he's not ready for sustained levels of first-team football. He's clearly someone that the manager Neil Scotland rate as a longer-term option. You cannot go and pitch him in and say, you're one of my starting centre-halves. Again, over the course of the campaign, we spoke a lot about John Souttar, a lot about Davies, also Leon Balogun then extended his contract. I think he's a good option to have, but again, he's not going to be a starter. So Rangers, whatever money is spent in that centre-half area, it has to be someone who's better than what they have, someone who's of a similar Ben Davies, John Souttar, Leon Balogun level. I don't think there's much between those three. Someone who's of that level is not going to have the desired impact. Rangers need someone like Connor Goldson was when he came in under Steven Gerrard, someone that you say he's robust, he's reliable, he's going to provide everything, leadership on and off the pitch. Rangers need to replace Goldson in more ways than one.
Yeah, I know you, Chris. You're waiting on a taxi, so you're just going to have to give us the nod when said transport arrives. But before you go, I want to speak about the post-match press conference when Philippe Clement, as mentioned, folks, you can go and watch that on the YouTube page after this, or read it in full on the website. He was asked about Lawrence Shankland, which he shut down pretty succinctly, as he does with most transfer links. Some interesting comments about Dujon Sterling's fitness. In effect, he was saying, look, yes, he's not been able to take part in all of pre-season. It's about building minutes up, and you can't change everything in 4 weeks or 6 weeks. But he made an interesting comment, Chris, where he said that he's still done, what was it, 3 times as much as he has done in any other pre-season. Now, we know that this topic has been a big one for Clement about the base level of fitness that players have. Would still expect it. It was a small injury, he said today, that kept Dujon Sterling out, and he wasn't risked, which makes it sound like if it was a big competitive fixture, he might have been able to play through it. If I'm to put you on the spot and you're to see that Tavernier performance today, which wasn't his best, who do you think starts at right back at Tynecastle next week?
I think a lot depends. A lot is now riding on how serious that injury, that knock to Dujon Sterling is. I thought Tav looked really off it today. Looked really sluggish. Caught out a couple of times. Didn't really offer a lot going forward. Now you think of all the good points of Tavernier, even they weren't there, and you then combine that with a really slack and sloppy defensive performance. It wasn't good, but we know he has missed a lot of the pre-season work with Ross out in Holland. He didn't do a lot of work over there. Also, he missed the 2 games over there, so he is perhaps a week to 10 days, perhaps even more than that, behind. The manager has. That was a point that he addressed with us over after the Ajax game. So it's perhaps you can't expect too much from Tavernier given where he is relative to other people. But the first game of the season is next week, so regardless of how much you've got in the tank, it's all on Tynecastle. Rangers need to go there and win the game. So I would be surprised if it's not Dujon Sterling. Just that because he has put more into pre-season, he's got more in the legs, he's got more in the tank. As long as that issue is not going to be something that if they risk it and it goes wrong, it's a really long-term one. I don't think it's worth a risk in that regard. The Rangers do see Dujon Sterling as the next right back. They see him that's going to be his role in this team. To do that, to fully replace James Tavernier, whether that's this season or whether it's in seasons to follow, it has to be as reliable as Tavernier. Has to be able to churn out 45, 50, 60 games a season, because that's what Rangers have had for a number of years now. And if you're going to adequately replace someone like Tav, it has to be someone who can do that job. So no, definitely it's a big call for the manager. You're putting in someone who's perhaps not fit against someone who's perhaps not fit, and it's a very difficult thing to weigh up.
Yeah, I think it'll be Sterling was meant to start if not for that injury. And just finally, Clement was asked about James Tavernier, not so much about his performance, but about the ongoing situation as to his Rangers' future. After the game, here is what he had to say.
That's the last one.
Can you tell us the latest situation with your captain? There's been so much talk.
What situation?
Well, there's been
I don't see a situation.
Well, there has been so much talk that he might be one of the players who could go. There's been interest, supposedly.
No, I told you guys that Todd is the only one who came to my office to say that he wanted to leave, and that's it.
But has there been interest in James?
I don't know. There's maybe interest in a lot of players. I don't know. He's a player for Rangers, and he's playing for Rangers. So as long as they don't say that they want to leave, they're player for Rangers.
Do you think he will be a Rangers player for the season?
I think that for every player who was here or was in training, who's not saying that they want to leave.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, Philip.
So we will see.
Chris, I think that is called not giving much away in a media training sense. If people are reading into it, they'll look at the "we will see" answer at the end. But I guess a continuation of what Clement said so far, we know that there's a lot of change and there's going to be more change to the Rangers squad this summer. Until players leave the club, he has to kind of find that middle ground, doesn't he?
He has to play the hand that he's got. He has to play the hand that he's been dealt. Is this the Rangers squad that he would ideally like to be taken to Tynecastle? Probably not, but it's the Rangers squad that he's got, it's a group of players that he's got, and he knows as well as anyone that the requirement is there to go and put on a performance, but more importantly to go and pick up the 3 points to get the title challenge off to a better start than it did this time 12 months ago.
Yeah, we shall see. Listen, we're going to let Chris go away from the stadium that he's already been kicked out of. Loads of coverage to come, of course, over the next few days on the Rangers Review. You can catch what Clement had to say on the YouTube page and the website as well. If you've not subscribed, never been a better time to do so. But until then, we'll be back with lots more shows next week as we build up to the start of the new season. Thank you for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.